You say if you feel lost right now, take it from someone who's been there too many times to count. You won't be lost forever. Getting lost is just you finding your way. There were so many times, like there's so many times actually in my life where I feel lost, like in my journey, like am I doing the right thing? Am I going in the right direction? Things like that. How like do you deal with that?
I think when we have our identities and then we make a shift, we have another identity. Then we have another identity as we're stepping in. We're not getting to a destination. We're getting to this area of our life where we have to relearn who we are. And so getting stuck along the way is just us creating that new path of who that person is. So my name is Maggie Bio. I'm tuning in from Littleton, Colorado. So very far from where you are, but I love that this is the way that we can connect. And really, truly, my story began about 5 years ago when I had to basically pick up and reclaim my life and rewrite my story after a toxic relationship. So it was a long time coming. I was in this relationship for about a decade. And I really truly knew that I was meant for more and wanted more and deserved more out of my life. So I pretty much had to completely start over at the age of 35. And I think that scares a lot of people when they hear that 35 is not a time to really want to start back over. But I think it's a really pivotal moment in your life to realize that it's never too late to restart and to reclaim the life that you really truly deserve and desire. So that's kind of a little bit about my story. I don't know if we're going to dive into it a little bit more if you want me to do that now, but that's kind of the beginning of my story.
Yeah, like we'll dive deep into it a little bit of later, right? So you say you're from America, right?
I am, yes. Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of people like they don't believe when I tell them that I speak to people from America. They're like, how do you do that? Because like I'm in South Africa right now, so it's kind of an impossible thing to like have someone from America on your show, your platform, and things like that, right? So it's a big deal for us, and I don't take it for granted that you are here right now.
Yeah.
So, um, do you believe that chasing the American dream is worth it?
That's a loaded question. I believe that chasing the American dream has never been in my vocabulary. The American dream to me can mean so many different things to so many people, but I think for myself, I have always been more of a dreamer on how can I create a life that is mine instead of working for someone else's dream. I think that's the American dream, is the misconception of is that you work for someone else and you have this life that you create, but you're also still not fully in charge of your own life. And so I believe the American dream is actually stepping into creating a life that you want to live and that you want to create out of your passion or your purpose. And so I think the American dream has never been one in my vocabulary to really quite even understand what that
Yeah,
truly means.
yeah. So, like that's powerful because like a lot of people like they're chasing that dream, that American dream, like I wanna be in America, I wanna do all these things. So so do you believe that like a lot of people they're just following the crowd, what the crowd is doing, they haven't discovered their purpose yet in life?
Yes, I think that a lot of people tend to follow maybe what their parents have done, maybe what it looks like everybody else is doing, maybe the successful people. But I truly believe that when it comes from your heart and your authentic being, it's going to feel different than if you were to just look at what everybody else is doing. When you're a dreamer and you're a creator, you're paving the path for what you want out of your life instead of following someone else's path.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So you say you have been in a toxic relationship and then you were able to get out of it when you were 35 years old. Like you had to restart.
What was that?
Like you say at the age of 35, you had to restart your life and things like that. So
Yeah.
would you say like it was let me just a pivotal moment, that had to allow you to think back, to sit back and reflect on your life and make some changes in your life.
Yes, I talk a lot about this is that we as people in a situation, circumstance, relationship, job, whatever it is, we allow behaviors in our life because we're not aware of what are they really truly doing to us. And so a lot of times I like to talk about that is that for 10 years of my life, I was lying to myself and holding myself hostage because I was allowing this behavior of somebody else to basically create my life. I was allowing someone else to kind of have the narrative. And that's why I really like to talk about the rewriting of your story, because oftentimes we as people are allowing other people to narrate our story, and keep us kind of captive against what it is that we really want to be doing. And it's not their fault or our fault. It's just the circumstance and the experience that we have to work through and start making changes.
Yeah, yeah. So how was it like for you that moment when like you were going through all these things like emotions, because I know for sure that being in a toxic relationship like is draining your soul, you know. So how was it like for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's one of those I think that is unique to everybody's situation. And I think for me, my emotions um, were that I was beat down, I was broken, I had no self confidence, no self worth. I really truly didn't look at myself as the person I knew I wanted to become. And so my identity was stuck in that, where it was, I'm not worthy. I'm not deserving. This is the life I chose. This is as good as it gets, is what I like to say is, or it is what it is. Like I chose this, so I have to stay there. And so that emotion, thoughts, because the emotions become thoughts, thoughts become actions, and then you stay stuck. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things is where people get stuck is that they're allowing their emotions to then turn into the thoughts that get repeated. And so then the more you repeat your thoughts, the more that narrative starts to change.
Yeah, yeah. That's powerful because like I was going through your timeline and I saw you wrote this other post, right? I just took this paragraph from your post. Let me just read it for you. You said, if you feel lost right now, take it from someone who's been there too many times to count. You won't be lost forever. Getting lost is just you finding your way. And I think that's powerful because like there were so many times, like there's so many times actually in my life where I feel lost like in my journey, like am I doing the right thing? Am I going in the right direction? Things like that. How like do you deal with that?
Yeah. So actually, funny enough, I was just speaking to somebody else across the world this morning, and we were talking a little bit about that. That I think when we have our identities and then we make a shift, we have another identity. Then we have another identity as we're stepping in. It's never, we're not getting to a destination, we're getting to this area of our life where we have to relearn who we are. And so getting stuck along the way is just us creating that new path of who that person is. And so when I was first out of my relationship, I had to create this path. Then I got kind of stuck as I was worrying about all the other things that were going to happen in my life and how I could move and do a different business and things like that. So then I got stuck. And then now I'm in a little transition again of feeling a little bit stuck in wondering if this is the right path or this is the right path. So I think it's really all about listening. That's another thing that I talk about a lot, is listening to the inside voice that's there to be your compass. And so when you are feeling like you're stuck or you're not sure what your true identity is, or you're not true to yourself, you have to really think about it, that you're not stuck. You're just growing into a new version of yourself.
Yeah, yeah. That's powerful. That's powerful. So, in like your experience right now, how do you define success? Like, what's success to you?
Yeah, I think that's one of those questions that no one has the answer, or the truth. I think is it's all up to us how we feel, and I think it's a great question, because for me, success is not about what you have; it's about what you can give. And I feel as if what I have to share and to give is my success, around being able to reclaim my life and to be able to step into this new version of myself and be able to share that with other people so that they have the opportunity to do the same. It's very scary. Yes, I'm not going to sit here and say that it is not one of the scariest things I did in my entire life, but it was the most rewarding one. And so I think the success never should be tied to a money or amount of something. It should correlate into what can you provide to the world, is really what it is for me. If you have a direction and a path, you're creating the clues for yourself to continue to go through that path. And so I think if you can think of it that way, like you're creating something, and to continue to move your feet is success. Because a lot of times most people will just keep their feet in one spot and think, I'm not going to be successful. It's not for me. It's for everybody else. Nobody else can. Everybody else has something I don't have. And I think that you just nailed it on the head, is that success really truly is just one foot in front of the other, looking at each path that you have to take, and your success is going to leave the clues.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. And what you just said right now, where you say people are looking at other people like, only certain people can do this and do that. Like, why do you think is that so? Is it because of like our limiting beliefs? Because we look at people on the TV screens and we're like, only them, they can do that. But when it comes to you, like you're always doubting yourself, like, I can't do it. Like, do you think it's limiting beliefs, or and how can people like overcome it?
Yeah, I definitely believe that it's limiting beliefs, but I also believe it's the narrative that we've said for too long. So it's the belief system we've created, which is actually, in reality, it's not true. The truth is that we all have the capacity and the ability to do those things. It's just the narrative that we've been telling ourselves for so long, that then yes, it does become the limiting belief. Now, you and I, who have done things to go at these new adventures in our life, I still have limiting beliefs. You're still going to have the scared, kind of push away and kind of not sure if you should do this or not. But I think the real power comes in from being able to to say you're going to still have them, but to work through them is to understand that that's where the beauty is that nobody has it figured out. We're just taking a step forward. And then we might get knocked off our path and we might fail, or we might struggle. But the beauty is in that is that if you can continue to move forward, you're going to find that true path that is really lit up for you. Like I said, it's not the destination, but it's that journey to get to be able to live in your purpose and your passion.
Yeah. So would you say that you are living in your purpose right now?
Yes, I do believe that I have finally, I've had so many things in my life that I was a hairstylist, I was a fitness professional, and so I was actually just talking about that, that I've been a mentor or a coach for my whole kind of my life, but now being able to have such a purpose around why I want to do what I'm doing. So I think that everybody has that path that we've talked about over and over in this episode. So remind yourself your path is never going to be your picture perfect path. But to me, living in your purpose or your passion is really listening to that inner voice that's inside of you, and it's turning your mess into a message and being able to craft something that you just cannot stop thinking about, and that you could literally talk about until you're, the color of my shirt, you're blue in the face, and that is something that you're passionate about. And that's through living with your purpose and your passion. And I do believe that right now, yes, I am fully living in my passion and my purpose.
Yeah. That's powerful and that's so true because I feel like living in your purpose it allows you to be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what's authentic to you? Like, what does that word mean for you?
Yeah, I think for a long time of my life, I didn't really know what authentic meant. We think of an authentic leather coat. We think of the authentic things in life, and you just don't really know. But I think deep down inside, your authentic self is the person that you are when no one's watching. And that could be that you
Yeah,
are dancing in your room, you're singing in the shower, you're hanging out, you're just being your true self without thinking, what does that person think of me? What is that person
yeah,
judging? Is this person acting this way? And it's that authenticity of your own being and being really happy with it. Because I think most of the times when I'm singing in the shower or I'm singing in my car or no one's watching me and I'm just really like in my zone,
yeah,
that's the person that needs to show up in every part of your life, because that's the person that's going to attract the opportunities for you. The right people are going to start falling into your circle, and your purpose and your passion is going to be lit up because you're coming from such a place of wholeness. And so I always
yeah,
say your authenticity is the theme of your story.
yeah. Oh, that's powerful. That's powerful. And you are so right about it because I feel like people can pick up on that when you are being fake and you're not being real with yourself. Um, and that authenticity is what attracts people to you, you know.
Yes.
So how how do you handle failure? Because at some point we all fail in our lives. You might start a YouTube channel and expect to have certain numbers in your life in that YouTube channel, and you might not reach those numbers at your time, and then that's a failure to you. So how can someone deal with failure? Like how do you deal with failure personal?
Yeah, I think failure also is something that is so unique to each person. And so for me, like you were saying, like your YouTube, and maybe this is how you wanted this out of this. And for me, failure could be that, oh my gosh, I have this thing and nobody signed up for it. Or, oh my gosh, I have whatever it is. And so failure to me is actually the stepping stone so that you can see what's happening in your life to be able to, redirect yourself just a little bit. Because I think a lot of times people think too, each time you fail, you have to start completely over. But with
Yeah.
failure, you're actually starting from a point of knowledge. You're starting from a place of experience. You're starting from a place that you can actually use that as the stepping stones into the next part. And so it's not that you're having to start completely over every time you fail. You're starting from a new place, a new experience, a new thing. And so I think with failure, you have to reframe the narrative around failure is the end, as in
Yeah.
failure is actually just a new beginning.
Mm, yeah, yeah. That's deep. So failure is basically just feedback
Mm-hmm.
that
100%.
maybe like you should, yeah, maybe like you should change something or what you're doing is not right. Ah, it's a lot of us like we grew up believing that we are failures,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think the reason for that is the school system. Like when we are in primary school, the teachers, they give you the marks, and maybe you fail, you got little marks on those tests, and then now you feel like you're a failure, and things like that. And it's just like what we've been talking about in the beginning, that is the limiting beliefs that we have, that's controlling our lives and things like that. So like, do you feel like being vulnerable is important?
I'm smiling and nodding because vulnerability is something that I talk about often as well. I'm like, did you
Mhm.
read something about me? No, vulnerability is extremely important, because vulnerability does not show that you are weak. It is showing that you actually want change in your life, and that you are vulnerable enough to share from a place of experience. And like we talked about feedback, the experiences in your life, the vulnerability has to come into that you have to accept what's happened, and be vulnerable enough to say, okay, this has happened, and this is happening, but I don't want that anymore. So you have to be vulnerable enough to change the thought process. That's what I talk about, being aware. And if you're not willing to accept what's happening over here, you're never going to be able to move yourself to the other side. You're going to stay stuck in that failure mentality, like, I don't deserve this, I don't deserve that. So that you have to have the
Mm.
willingness to be able to move forward and be vulnerable enough to say, man, I really messed up, or man, I'm really stuck, man, I really
Yeah.
need help. Because if you're not vulnerable enough to say that, you're going to just keep yourself holding yourself hostage, really.
That's true. That's true. Just as you said, like vulnerability is not a weakness, but it's a strength.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about this on my second book, that my first book was actually a failure, like according to me,
Yep.
because I didn't reach like certain targets and things like that. And me being vulnerable about that situation, I realized that there were also like same people who had that same experience that I had, and they were able to relate to me about that situation. So that's powerful. What advice would you give to a younger self?
Ooh. So I believe the biggest piece of advice I would have given to my younger self is to, I think we've already kind of talked about it, is that failure is not the end, it's the beginning. And also to, I think, to kind of tie into that is never, ever, ever, ever let your circumstances, your experiences, and your past define who you want to become in your future self.
Mm, that's powerful. So apparently this is the last question I have for you. um, I see the work that you're doing on social media, and I'm inspired by that. The workshops that you are holding, the videos and things like that. Like, what's next for you? Like going forward, 2025.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I think a lot of us tend to not feel as if we are making the impact or we're doing what we want to be doing. So to hear that from other people, it's just it's exciting, you know. And I think it's like what you've talked about. It's not necessarily checking a box, but it does feel good that what I am doing is coming from my heart and my space of purpose. But for 2025, I really feel like I'm stepping into a new identity of myself, even for being able to speak on stages to masses of people instead of just doing some coaching and mentoring. I feel like I had two accidents with my hands, and I feel like my hands are tied, but my voice is still there. And so I'm making that be kind of my impact for myself is that because I can't use my hands like I used to in two of my businesses, I am now able to share my voice. So for me, I have big goals of stretching and being able to be on as many stages as possible in 2025, sharing my story around rewriting your story, re-navigating, reclaiming your identity, and stepping into your most authentic, bold, courageous self, and going after the life that you truly know deep down inside that you desire.
Yeah. Uh, Thank you so much, like for sharing your time with me. Yeah, today I appreciate it,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm looking forward like to working with you this year, like collaborating more on some projects, maybe. Yeah, like thank you so much. This is
Yeah.
the
Thank
end
you.
of our interview. Yeah.